Chef Cook, and this is Backyard Basics. We're filming this month in Peach County to talk about two very important crops grown in Georgia. Many of our important crops start with peas. We've got, of course, peaches, we've got pines, but today we're going to talk about pecans and peanuts, two other very important crops in Georgia, spread all across South Georgia. On a side note, just for you history buffs that don't know, Peach County that we're in right now was the 161st county in Georgia, and it was the last county ever formed in Georgia. Those of y'all that know, we only have 159 counties, and I just said it's 161st. Well, after Peach County was formed in 1924, two counties up around Atlanta, Milton and another county, actually joined. They were having financial troubles. They were put together to form Fulton County. That's why Fulton County is such an eyeball shape. But today, if Peach County was being formed, they might actually call it Pecan County, which doesn't roll off your tongue quite as well as Peach County. But with the amount of acreage of pecans in the county, you can see why it's a predominant crop in the county. All right, so some of you guys that might watch me on Flint River Communications might be saying, why is he talking about pecans again? Because I think you already talked about that before a couple of years ago. Well, now we're being shown also, we're able to be seen on Forsyth Cable Net, Channel 19, so I'm going to repeat myself for the folks up in Forsyth. I get a lot of questions about homeowner pecan trees, small orchards. Somebody wants a few trees just to have a few nuts here and there, maybe enough that might offset some property tax values and stuff. So I just want to touch on real quick today, maybe about the three things that are most important when you're trying to select trees for your home orchard. Three things that you can do to actually have some success in growing a home orchard. I guess I should say four. The first thing is to go see your county agent. We have some good publications. We have this one, Pecan Trees for the Home Backyard and Backyard Orchard, and we also have another little small one just about varieties. The variety one actually shows you what the variety looks like, shows you what the nut looks like, talks about the characteristics of those nuts. Once you've kind of got that and you've kind of done some research, there's three important things that you need to think about when you're choosing trees. You need the proper variety, you need to make sure you have some irrigation, and you need to fertilize. Those are the three things you can do in a home orchard or your yard for yard trees that will actually make a difference on whether or not you have a pecan at the end of the season or you have a tree at the end of the season. So the first thing is your varieties. Like I said, this Pecan Trees for the Home Backyard Orchard has a good list. Our top four probably that I would recommend for it, well, I'll say top three that I would recommend for a home orchard or yard tree would be Elliott, Excel, and Gloria Graham. Those are proven varieties that have resistance to pecan scab. I talk about pecan scab to everybody I talk to when I talk about pecans. These right here, I don't know what variety they are. These are some 6 or 7 year old trees, been fertilized well, kept a good herbicide strip, they're irrigated. This is a variety that's going to make a large nut. It's one of our commercial varieties, and it's also one that is not resistant to pecan scab. I'm trying to pull a leaf off. I can't even pull a leaf off now. If you can see this leaf right here, it's compound leaves, so you got all these leaflets. This leaf right here, these black spots on this leaf, that is the pecan scab fungus. And what happens is that fungus will get on, in a wet spring, the fungus sporulates, gets on the leaves, and from the leaves, it actually will move to the nuts. This disease on this tree moved to the nuts as the nuts got fairly large, so it shouldn't cause a lot of issues with size or anything. But if this fungus were to get on these nuts when they were really small, it can actually cause the shuck to not be able to grow, not be able to expand, and what happens is that the nut inside is not able to develop correctly, and you end up with a bunch of small nuts that usually fall off, don't amount to anything. If it hits later, you can produce some nuts, a little bit less quality. That's the number one factor that reduces the nuts that we have in yard trees. That's why 3-4 years ago, when it was real dry spring, everybody and their brother that had a pecan tree, even these trees that are off in the woods, actually made pecans. These seedling trees are off in the woods, they made pecans. That's the number one reason. The second thing I would say is water. These commercial orchards, if you drive by them, starting August, September, July, pretty much all year. You can see their microjet sprinklers. You can see their whatever kind of sprinkling system they have, whether it's below ground, above ground. They've got it turned on. They're putting a lot of water out. Pecan trees use upwards of around 300 gallons per tree per day. So when you talk about 12 trees per acre, you're looking at a pile of water. The most critical time for water is when these nuts are filling out, August, September, and they require a lot more water then than they do normally. So variety, to make sure you have one that's resistant to pecan scab. Water, to make sure you have enough in the ground to fill that tree out, and then fertilization to make sure you can grow a big tree and a tree that will support a nut crop. Another thing with fertilization and water is that pecan trees are naturally alternate bearing. They'll put on a big crop one year, they won't put on much next year. Some trees worse than others. By fertilizing, by watering, you can actually reduce the alternate bearing effect, and you can produce a crop every year. Fertilization is critical. We've got good recommendations in this book and other pecan things, and if you got a soil sample, it would be on that too for individual trees. But the most critical part of fertilization, if you have small trees you put in, or you got larger trees that are there and you're wanting to try and get them back into shape, probably the number one nutrient that we need to have in that tree is zinc. They like a lot of zinc. Older trees, can be upwards of 5 pounds of zinc sulfate per tree per year. Trees this size, I would say probably 3 pounds. So zinc, fertility, water are very important. And as I said, your variety is going to be the biggest thing. You're not going to be able to, in a home orchard, spray fungicides, get an air blast sprayer to spray these trees. I don't recommend coming out here with a backpack or a wand sprayer and spraying above your head with fungicides and insecticides, just because, they are, meant to kill stuff. And, there's no way you're going to spray it out here above your head without getting it all over you, unless you're wearing a full Tyvek suit with a respirator and mask and safety goggles. And I don't know many people that are going to go outside and do that, especially 95 degrees in the dead of summer. So those are just three quick and easy points. Another thing you might want to consider is spreading your varieties out. You need some pollinators in there, so getting multiple varieties. When you are picking varieties, don't just get one variety, but multiple varieties. That'll also spread out your harvest when you have nuts available. We could probably go from, say, the end of September harvesting nuts all the way up to Christmas if we have the right varieties and spread them out. Some varieties I didn't mention that you could look for, that you could test, try out on limited space, limited scale, are Amling, Carter, Gifford, and McMillan. Those are some that have some moderate resistance to scab, and would be something you could probably do fairly well on in your yard. But for any more in-depth information on pecans, if you want to grow 5, or if you want to grow 500, definitely get in touch with your county agent, and we can get some information up for you and help you start off strong. Because with a tree like this, a perennial crop, you don't want to start off. You want to make sure you got everything right before you start. An orchard like this, they've already got probably $5,000 an acre invested, probably more, in these trees. And they've just now really started producing nuts, this year, last year. So, you don't want that kind of investment to be hindered by what you didn't do up front. Do your research and get your soil and everything ready. From here, I said we're going to talk about peanuts too. From here, we're going to go find a peanut field, and we're going to talk about peanuts and their development. And the reason we're going to do that is, there's a bunch of different reasons. The main reason is, for those of y'all that don't know, I grew up in Gwinnett County, which is really big in growing people. That's about it. No crops. I didn't grow up around farming. I didn't grow up around peanuts, cotton, corn, soybeans. I know we had some tomatoes growing up, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't allowed to touch them. So, I take for granted, now that I'm involved in it, I take for granted when I ride by these fields, I know what these things are. I know what I'm looking at. I know how they grow. I know where they come from. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't know, what a peanut plant looks like, how the peanuts grow, where to find the peanuts on a plant. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of take you out, show you a peanut field, talk a little about peanuts, about their growth, and show you some peanuts that are developing. We should be getting, small nuts on a lot of our peanut acres now. So thought it'd be interesting to show some of you folks that may not have ever seen a peanut or seen one grow. So we're going to find that field and talk some nuts. All right, so we left the pecans in the tree nut orchard. Now we're in the ground nuts. This is a peanut field. So first thing you see when you're driving down the road, you see a real short, really dark green field. That's peanuts usually. But this is a peanut field. For those of you who don't know, peanuts are legumes. Legumes are plants that actually make their own nitrogen. I'll explain a little bit better. Actually, peanuts, the plant doesn't make its own nitrogen, but there is a relationship with a bacteria and the roots of these peanut plants and other legumes. The relationship that the bacteria will actually form nodules on the roots of these plants. In those nodules, atmospheric nitrogen, so nitrogen out of the air, is actually converted into a usable form by those bacteria, so the peanut plant gets its nitrogen from those rhizobium bacteria. So I don't know if you can tell really well, but I'm standing in a few rows that are pretty good and yellow, and there's some kind of up and down yellow and green. I actually have a row behind me that's green. When these guys plant these peanuts, they actually put the bacterium in the soil with the peanut, so to make sure that the bacteria are there, so when the roots start growing, the roots can be basically invaded by these bacteria, the nodules form, and nitrogen is made. What probably happened here, because it's pretty much to the row, is either the bacteria wasn't in the hopper, didn't get sprinkled on the seeds, or possibly died when it was put in the ground. But most likely they probably just ran out of bacteria right here. So these rows right here don't have as many bacteria or nodules on the roots as some of these other ones. So they're not producing as much nitrogen. So that's just a nitrogen deficiency, and you can actually apply nitrogen to a peanut and it will respond. But the good thing about peanuts usually is that peanuts don't really require nitrogen when you plant them. I'm gonna pull up a plant and we'll talk a little bit about and we'll bring it over there to the camera so you can see it really well. After I get some mud off of it. And we've got some plants over here we can look at too. All right, so first off, like I talked about, the nodules that form and produce the nitrogen. I might have just got off camera. Hopefully you can see these right here. And all along this main taproot, these are the nodules that are formed by the bacteria, and that is actually where the nitrogen is being made. And if you want to get really technical and really in-depth about them, if you cut them open and you see that they're kind of reddish or pink, that shows that they're actually working. And if they're brown or, if they're brown or off color like that, that means they probably died and aren't working. All right, so here's how the peanut grows. It grows in this spreading form. This is one plant right here. And since I wanted to talk about it, it doesn't have any flowers on it. So I'm gonna go find a peanut plant that's got some flowers and we'll talk about it. All right, like I said, the peanut plant I pulled up doesn't have any flowers on it, so I had to move over here and show you these. But the peanut plant, out here on these stems, will flower. So this is your peanut flower right here. Nice little pretty yellow flower. Looks like most legume flowers. After that flower forms and is pollinated, then you've got what's called a peg. Some pegs are longer than others. It just keeps growing until it hits soil. So here is, let me see if I can get to it. Too many limbs. Here's a stem. There's a flower right here. There's a flower right here. You can see where the flowers kind of died off right there. And these are all pegs forming. And if you can look, as we progress farther down this stem, we'll get into here. Okay, so you got different stages. This one's just formed, just barely gone into the ground. This one's been in the ground a little bit. You can see where it was in the soil. This is the beginnings of a peanut right here. That's a small little peanut forming. You move on farther down, you got a little bit bigger, it's down a little farther and farther as you go. As you can tell, most of the peanuts initiate growth around the taproot. It's what we call the root crop. And then you got your limb crop. So this limb is growing out like this, and out here you can see you got a small peanut here, another small one, and another larger one. But they mature from root to tip. So that's the basics of it. There's nothing really fancy to it now. These right here, will be getting ready. You can crack them open. When they're immature, they'll still have this kind of cottony. Inside of the shell be kind of cottony, and as they get more mature and the oils kind of take over in this nut, that shell will continue to thin and darken up. And And that's how we determine maturity. We'll come in here and scrape these things, and when that shell right there on that shoulder starts looking dark, then we know these peanuts are starting to get ready. Peanuts around here, this variety, will usually take between 140, 145, 50 days. Then they'll bring their inverters in, come in here and dig these peanuts, turn them over, and bring the pickers in and get them out of the field. So that's the basics. That's how a peanut grows. So all you folks that thought peanuts grew on a tree, or when you drive by a cotton field you thought it was peanuts, that's your lesson in Ag 101 today. Peanuts, one of Georgia's #1 crops, and how they grow. I know I said we were going to talk about pecans and peanuts, but according to our timer, I haven't used up enough of my time for my show this month. So standing in that peanut field, looking down the road, we saw there was a cornfield. And one thing we get questions about sometimes from bigger growers, not so much from our gardeners, because they're usually growing sweet corn, or they might be growing field corn to grow roast in here, and they're not going to let it get as far. But one thing we get questions about is how, when is corn ready? When is it fully mature? You can't just always look at it and you see this corn is dented. You can't say, okay, that's fully mature every time, because you will get that dent before it's fully mature. So what you have to do is you have to snap some kernels off, in multiple places in a field, especially large field. You can break this ear in half to expose these kernels. And what you do is you pop a few of them off, just pop them off like that. And this membrane down here at the bottom, if you can peel it off and kind of pop it off and scrape it, what you'll see is there's a little layer under that membrane. And if that layer is black, which you probably cannot see from there, but this one right here is kind of brownish black, so that kernel right there is completely done. It's mature. A lot of them here on this ear though have not. They're kind of yellowish, kind of tan. So you could actually, if you had irrigation on a field like this, you could actually still put a little bit more water on this and possibly get a little bit of a yield increase, for maybe a few more days. But it's just about done. It's about to dry down and be ready to harvest. So just another little agricultural tidbit for you. While I'm standing here, I've also got another one of our major crops in Georgia. This is and it starts with a P too, pigweed. We got a lot of resistance weed problems in this area, Middle Georgia, and really across the state and the country these days. But this is one of them that's a real bear for us in our area. Just down the road from here is where it was first discovered in the country. Now it's pretty much spread across the southeast. But we've got resistance. This weed right here is resistant to several different classes of herbicide, and really gives us a lot of fits. So you'll see it popping up in a lot of fields around. And it's not always because somebody didn't try and kill it. It's usually because it looks at a lot of the herbicides we have and it just laughs and keeps on growing. Whereas most of the weeds we spray will die. This one right here, there's no telling what it's been sprayed with this year, and it's still going strong. Looks healthier than, probably healthier than a non-sprayed pigweed plant. Hopefully, all this information has meant something to you. Hopefully you learn a little bit. If nothing else, maybe learn something about some Georgia history with Peach County being the 161st county. You can go back and tell your friends, sound smart at a dinner party. As always, I invite you guys to give me a call, shoot me an email, give me some ideas for a show, invite me out to your farm, your flower garden, your vegetable garden, your home orchard, small pond if you need somebody to check for fish populations, whatever. Anything you can give me an idea for a show. We're always willing. And if you just want questions and answers about your home orchard or your garden, or you're growing peanuts in the backyard for boiling, whatever, give us a call at the Peach County office or the Taylor County office. We'll be happy to help you. As always, I'm Jeff Cook. This is Backyard Basics, where we're filmed in your backyard.